Chad Moyer with you here on the Rural Radio Network. It's time for another Fridays in the Field segment. And again to Northeast Nebraska, Hooper, Nebraska. We're visiting with Nathan Scholl. Nathan, thanks for visiting with us again here today. We are sitting in the combine, and I would say it's probably wishful thinking because unfortunately this thing hasn't been used for a number of days, huh?
Yeah, it's been since last Saturday evening where we turned a wheel, Chad. It's rained almost 2 inches this week, and it's been cold and wet.
Yeah, and let's talk about soybeans first of all. You were able to make some progress on beans before the rains came, right?
Yeah, I started around 20th of September. I've got a couple hundred acres of beans out. They were good. There's going to be some variation, I think, in yields this year. I was very surprised. Some fields did a lot better than others.
So are you able to kind of surmise what that variation came from, Nathan?
Well, I know the field that had done a lot better was planted a little earlier, and it got sprayed with fungicide and insecticide, and I think that's going to be a big deal. We had a lot of late-season disease pressure in the beans.
Yeah. So early yields for what you were able to combine, satisfied with the soybeans?
Yes, very much so. I had some of my best beans I've ever raised, so very pleased.
All right. And kind of the same situation in the corn. Were you able to harvest at least a little bit before the rains came?
Yeah, I've gotten a little bit of corn done. The beans were too wet, but we were able to travel through the field to combine some corn, and yes, very pleased. I haven't combined any of my better fields of corn yet, but I'm excited to see how they're going to do.
Yeah. And we were talking about that before, the fact that with this weather, the wind, the rain, the combination, it did require you to make a conscious decision on which fields you were going to go to, right?
Yes, Chad. It's probably been close to a month ago, but we had a pretty strong thunderstorm front go through, and we had some pretty strong winds one evening, and there's a lot of corn that kind of leaned over. There's a lot of corn above the ear that the tops are gone, but we also had a few fields that were kinked below the ear, and I've gotten most of that harvested, but there are definitely some cornfields that are looking tough.
Yeah. Percentage-wise, between the corn and the soybeans, where do you sit at percentage harvested at this point, do you think?
I'm only 25% done, so we've got a ways to go.
And so the key, I guess, now is when is Mother Nature going to let you in the field, huh?
Yeah, I think the forecast looks better next week, so we're hoping to have a good stretch next week.
Yep. As far as the standability for either corn or soybeans, do you think there's enough time? Will those stalks and stems hold on long enough to let you get it harvested?
I think so, Chad, as long as we don't have wind like last year. Last year was tough on the corn, and if we can avoid that, I think things will hold on pretty well.
Okay. You were telling me about some of the different things that you've tried on your farm, different experiments, different trials within your cropping system. And one of those was in corn and split application of nitrogen. Explain a little bit about what you were looking at with there, and how do you think it turned out so far this year?
The last several years, I've done quite a bit of top dressing of nitrogen, and we've had such heavy rains here that feels like if you don't split your nitrogen up, you kind of take a chance on losing a bunch of it. And I don't know, I think it kind of paid again this year to split it in half a little bit.
So you think this is something that you're going to continue doing?
Oh, definitely, Chad. It just seems to, I feel better about it not spending all the money at once anyway. You get a big rain after you put it all out there, and you kind of wonder where it all went. And this way, you at least split it in half.
Yep. All right. The last couple of months we've been talking to you about... Try that again. The last couple of months we've been talking to you about your cover crops and how you're incorporating that into your operation. Last time we visited, we were standing in a growing cover crop field, and have the cows been turned out on it?
Yeah, they have, Chad. They were just turned out just today, actually, and I'd say they're going to be pretty fat for about a month.
Yeah. How long do you think that cover crop will allow for grazing for you guys?
I think it'll last at least a month, so they'll be out there probably a lot of the winter, but there's corn stalks next to it, so but they will definitely eat all of it.
Yeah. With the weather that we've had this fall, is that going to affect how you incorporate cover crops for next year? In other words, getting next year's cover crop planted yet this fall?
Probably a little bit. Generally, I try and fix some ditches in the fall and seed rye, and given this later harvest and the way things are wetter, that might be something that has to be done next spring. So it just kind of depends on Mother Nature.
Yeah. Do you have options? Have you thought about if you did have to plant in the spring, what you would use instead?
It probably wouldn't change. Where I'm doing it is probably where I've done some dirt work, so it's drilled into the ditches where I fix, and it's just a matter of hopefully you don't get a big rain before it comes up again.
Yeah. All right. Well, that kind of brings us up to date, I guess, the Northeast Nebraska update. As we wrap up, kind of thoughts on harvest. I know you want to get going. It looks like next week is going to be a good harvest week, hopefully in second half of the week. And just kind of, how do you think harvest is going to play out here for the rest of the season for you?
I just have a feeling that it's going to get really busy. Hopefully Mother Nature averages out and we have a lot of nice weather in the next month.
I know I'm betting that storage is going to be an issue for all of you and your neighbors. Everybody's going to want to go at once. That means the elevators are going to fill up pretty quick, aren't they?
Yeah, and I think that's already been talked about a little bit with beans quite a bit. There's just too many beans around.
All right, very good. Well, thanks so much for the update, and thanks for allowing us to follow you through this growing season. Thank you.
No problem, Chad. It's been fun.
We've been visiting with Nathan Scholl. Again, he is from Hooper, Nebraska. He is our Fridays in the Field segment from Northeast Nebraska. And as long as Mother Nature, or when Mother Nature allows, he'll be back in the field busy taking off the remaining corn and soybeans here this fall. That's this Friday in the Field segment here on the Rural Radio Network. Chad Moyer reporting.